microphone and record. All right. Good afternoon, brother and sister Edwards. I'm Adney, part of the Jesus Sprinkle Singles Ministry, women who love God first and foremost, and someday will have a desire to become wives. And you are here today to share your God-written love story with us. I am super excited. So the first question I have for you all, who are you together and who are you apart from each other?
Well, I'm James, the one that I'm somewhat introverted, and uh, I'm a thinker, but I'm caring and I'm loyal as an individual. I think that's all I have in regards to alone. But with her, I'm all of those things. Plus, I'm a father. I consider myself a good husband.
Yeah, right.
Uh, and most importantly, I'm a child of God.
So, okay.
Okay.
I am Darlene, and I am um, child of God. I'm a teacher. Um, I like to have fun. I'm a mother, wife. Um, I'm the favorite child of my mom. My dad has passed on, so I'm the favorite. Um, I do have a brother. I think I'm a pretty good sister. Uh, Aunt, just a lot of things. And together, I think we make a pretty good team.
Yeah.
Uh, we're yet growing and learning together. Uh, I don't know. That's a loaded question, but that's about it.
Okay, so I'm going to go a little deeper and expound on the togetherness. Um, there are couples when they're together, you know that they exemplify, they exude love, right? When people see brother and sister Edwards together, what do they see?
Well, initially they might see just standing quietly. Just initially, they may see serious, mostly from him. Um, I get, they'll see serious, mature, but
I think eventually they see a team.
then they'll see, yeah.
I think they see a team.
So, as a team, what would I, as a single woman, get from both of you as like my coaches? I think that's where I really want to go. Like, how would your team? How would I benefit from your team?
Well, I'm gonna say from my perspective, um, God being our coach, this is my team captain. Um, so of course we both, and my team captain looks to God, um, and I look to him. I look to both of them. Um, so we want to be on one accord as God would have us to be, and I've got to show him that respect and that I believe in what he's leading me to do as his wife.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Like, yeah, that's exactly what I was Right. Thank you so much. And I'm almost certain all the other sisters, that was what they were looking for as well. Um, Second question, how did you all meet? And please include your first impression of your spouse.
Well,
I'm gonna start there. I was thinking about this the other day when I saw this question, and that was 30 years ago. It'll be 30 years in July when we first met. We've been married 27 years, and it was 30 years ago. I was working a job in my hometown, and I don't know what, it was a Monday because I had just gotten out vacation, and I was miserable. I was 25 years old. What, 20?
20.
I was miserable. I hated that job. I did not want to be there that day, and I worked second shift. And coming out vacation that Monday evening, it was horrible. I was just full of negative emotions, didn't want to go in. And when I walked in, the department I worked in, I had, people, they were temporary workers. It was about anywhere 5 to 10 that worked up under me. And, so I just thought it was going to be a typical day. I didn't want to be there. I would get through it. And as soon as I walked in the building, she was the first person I saw. And I can remember everything she had on. She had on her jeans, and she had this white button-up blouse that looked real. It was like a summer blouse, real cool and everything. And then she had on her little steel-toed shoes. They were so cute on her. I could tell she doesn't belong here. And I caught her eye, and she caught my eye, and one of the workers who worked up under me came up and said, she is going to be working up there with us. And when I saw her and I spoke, she threw her hand up like this and said, hey. And I don't know, I got this feeling. I mean, it was crazy. It was like that smile. She had a beautiful smile, still got a beautiful smile. That smile, those pearly white teeth. And I mean, I looked and I was like, how somebody, it was almost like just seeing her touch me, not knowing that it would progress to something else. But that was my first impression of her, the first time I ever laid eyes on her.
I don't remember all that, but
bad memory when it comes to.
I have a horrible memory when it comes to details. But I do remember. Yeah, I was working for a temporary service. I was in transition from Northwest, getting ready to go to Delta State, and I was trying to find a summer job. I think this may have been my third or fourth one. I think they literally kicked me out of the soap factory. But so I got to this one, and to this day, I can't even tell you what my job description was because I don't remember doing work.
She didn't.
But I don't know. I was like, I went home and I was telling my sister-in-law about this big fella with pretty eyes. I tried not to be. It was like he said, it was something like I didn't think I was interested, but I guess I was, because he wasn't he was old, even though it was just 5 years, he was old. I was used to, I was just 20. He is old. He is 25. He is almost 30. But I was like, he's like a real man. And yeah, it was just something about him. I guess because he didn't make me work. I just came in with a screwdriver, and And that's what but I was dating we started dating. I was dating a big fella. It's my big fella with pretty eyes.
Oh, I love that. I love how both of you said you just don't know, but it was something. There was something that just drew y'all to each other like a magnet. I think that's beautiful because a lot of times people miss that opportunity because it was like, I don't think so. No, it cannot possibly be. And it's just like God is, yeah, it is, right? So I just think that is so beautiful.
And since you said that, because it was almost a missed opportunity, because as we worked together, I noticed her, and I noticed that she was different, and I think that's what attracted me to her. But I think we were both kind of cautious. I know she was, because she was, every time I would walk up to her, we would joke and kid around, but I think she knew I liked her, so therefore she was trying to push me away and everything. And I was trying my best after like this first or second week with, when we met, build up my nerves to ask her, ask her out on a date, go out to dinner and everything. And and I knew she was not going to be there long. And I mean, how long did you work? It wasn't even a month, because you had to leave that office.
Yeah, I was going to Delta.
It wasn't even a month, and it was around that third week. I really, really struggled with that, and everything, asking her, but I knew her time was coming to the end, in regards to being there. And I just had a talk with myself one day, and I said, if you let her go, it's going to be your fault, because you never said anything to her. And I asked her, and she accepted.
I went out with the big fella.
Yep. And
the adult man.
I just love your personality. I'm over here laughing, but third question is, I want to know how that date went. I want to know, how did that date go?
It was good. Where do we go? TGI Fridays.
TGI Fridays.
It was TGI Fridays, and for the life of me, I still don't know why he let me drive his vehicle. I don't know why, because now I can't drive at all. If we going anywhere, he's driving. I don't even get to drive. I guess that was it. You gonna drive on our first date. You get to drive my truck on the first date, and I've never driven again.
Wow.
But it was good. It was good. That's. I'm glad I said yes. I'm glad.
I love that. That's so beautiful. She said he don't know why he let her drive, but that man knew. Yeah, this will be the last time you gonna drive. So I got this. That's beautiful. Our third question is, how did you know things were getting serious and your spouse was the one? How did you know things were getting serious and your spouse was the one?
I guess I knew it was getting serious when I was, I can't say skipping school, but but a couple of times. I think my cousin was also going to Delta State. We would figure out ways to be late and go a roundabout to Olive Branch and then go to school. And to this day, I do blame him. I was too in love to pledge Delta. I didn't even pledge because I gotta go back home and spend time with him. And so things like that, he became a priority over other things. So yeah.
I would say the same thing equally. We started spending a lot of time together, a lot of time, and even if the weekend she didn't come home, I traveled 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours away to where she went to school, and rented me a hotel room and spent the weekend with her, down there, and then I would come home and everything, start back work. I mean, we started really growing together, started spending a lot of time together. And then when she would come home, if we weren't dating, going out, I would pretty much spend a lot of time at her house and everything. I think that's one of the things too. I fell in love with her parents. I think they were just wonderful people, and they were always so welcoming, when I came to see her and everything. So I kind of knew then I knew way before then, but I knew then that, yeah, she would be the one.
Explain to us, because you just said you kind of knew before then that she was the one. So explain to us, how did you know?
I don't know. I guess as we grew closer, I like conversation, and we would have some real good talks and everything. Like I said, when I first saw her, I knew there was just something different about her. She wasn't a typical girl, And I mean, we would have talks like we were longtime friends. I mean, when we started dating, people can tell that we had just started dating, but because we were so, I guess we had built such a good rapport with each other and everything. But just to be able to sit and have a good conversation with someone, that meant a lot to me.
Amen. That's beautiful. Sisters, y'all hear that? Be great conversationalists and excellent listeners, because it sounds like she was a real good listener and a great conversationalist. Our fourth question: look back on some of the expectations you had before marriage. How have they changed now?
Well, as far as an expectation for dating, it wasn't, I didn't have no kids, I didn't really want to date somebody with kids. And the other one, you had to be intelligent. And from the conversations, he is highly intelligent. And that just, that was just all inspiring to me, because he was intelligent, and this was before he got any secular education. He was just intelligent naturally, and that was intriguing to me. So intelligence was, and of course God fearing, because Mom and Daddy wasn't gonna let that go,
Oh, my time to answer.
I wasn't that long.
I don't know. I would say that our relationship, our marriage is I want to say not like the typical marriage, that I grew up seeing, where in regards to roles in the house and everything like that. And that was an expectation, but that was a big expectation, when we first got married. I didn't expect her. Well, I did, but I later kind of changed that way of thinking in regards to, the woman is supposed to do this, the woman is supposed to do that, cook, clean, and all of that stuff. And she tried, but, I knew she was going she was going, and I'm not, I'm not being critical of her. I'm not being critical of her. She, and I knew that was a lot. That was a lot to do and stuff. So I had to kind of reshape my thinking in regards to, you know, this was a both of us had jobs, and she would get up just as early as I did, and go out and have to deal with other people's children all day long, not to mention, school administration and everything. And I got to the point to where, I had to kind of see that and respect that. And when we first got married, we met this white couple, and I never remember because I had my own janitorial service there. And they said, "You guys, how long you guys been married?" We told them we had just got married, hadn't been married maybe like a year or so. And he said, "Well, we've been married for such years." He said, "I'm gonna tell you something, young man." He said, "This is how you make your marriage successful. You put marriages, you put in order to get anything out of it, you got to put something into it." And that's something that I carry with me, even, with my attitude about, the roles of the house and everything. You want to, you if you want to get money out the bank, you got to put money in, and everything. And so I had to change my way of thinking, because as a young man, that was foolish thinking. But as I got older, I said, "No, don't worry about the kitchen. I got the kitchen. I'm gonna cook. I do the grocery shopping. I cook and all of that stuff." And and I could tell, that, I know that's a help to her, and that's what I want to be, a help to her as well, in regards to, I don't expect her to, she gets up at 4:45 every morning, so I know she's dog tired when she gets here. So I work from home now, so I'll make sure that, I do the grocery shopping. I tell her, "Don't worry about the kitchen. I cook, make sure she's got some dinner when she comes in. And as soon as she eat, she'll sit over here in this recliner, and 5 minutes, she's knocked out tired, And to me, that's a good feeling to be able to, help her. I know she's my helpmeet, but I think we're supposed to help each other and everything. And that's what I try to do. So that was one of the things in regards to my thinking I had to change, in order to make my marriage better.
I love how you said that. We are supposed to help each other. Lord have mercy. I wish a lot of men understood that. That is beautiful. Like, you knew she deals with children administration. So if I make it home first, let me go ahead and start dinner, cook. When she gets here, she finds something to eat. And then after that, she relaxes. That is, I'm praying I find me a husband that thinks that way.
He is the better cook as well. I absolutely, I do brag on that, because a lot of women don't experience that. Very few, experience that the husband he cooks. He's probably a better cleaner than me too, but and he does the grocery shopping. Not that I can't. When I need to, I will. When I see him, maybe a little frustrated, overwhelmed, then of course I'll step in. And again, we're a team, and we're each other's helpmeet, like he said.
Amen. That is so beautiful. Oh, thank you, Lord. That's just so powerful. Our next question says, "How did y'all cope during challenges and decide not to walk away from each other?"
Well, I can say on my end, I kind of had to rethink, accept accountability for poor decision making and going in the wrong direction, and not being guided. So I changed over to the thinking of seek ye first, and looking at myself first, before, blaming him for problems, issues, and things. I had to stop doing that and look at myself first, and then looking at things, looking at not only him in a different way, but looking at him, if I could say this, looking at him through the eyes of God, instead of seeing him through my broken eyes, seeing him for who he is supposed to be as my godly head, and putting myself aside, and honestly seeking God first. When I started doing, everything just, got easier. It got, not that it was perfect, but it got easier. So I would say, that's how you cope, is by leaning on God, and his word, and putting yourself aside, and that's all I got.
And I think that's been the level playing field in our relationship is God, because even during the problem times, we had some trouble in our marriage about 6-7 years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. And, that could have led to a divorce. But, we had been together 20 years. And to me, it just didn't make no sense for us to throw all that we had built together away, So I had to realize that I would have to accept accountability, for my part of it. I had to humble myself and accept, this is what got you here, in this relationship, and I had to be motivated to make the necessary changes to improve our marriage, improve our bond and everything, because, I feel like as the man of the relationship, I set the tone, and I have a big responsibility in that. And so there were some things that I had to change about myself, especially how I communicated. I wasn't a very good communicator at all, because I had a tendency to internalize a lot of my thoughts and feelings, and I had to learn to start dealing with our problems differently and really just grow up, and I'll be honest with you, I just had to grow up, and, and the best way to grow up is to grow up through God. I used to remember, and I was thinking about this, I used to remember when I was as early in our marriage, I would be the one come up, I come in the house, every light in the house is on, and I'm like, why are all these lights on? You need to turn all these lights off. If you're not in this room, don't turn the lights on, the TV on and everything upstairs, and just lights everywhere. Because I would come home in the evening time and it'd be dark from work, and our light was the only light just lit house lit up on the street. You could see every light in the house on. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense, because I worried about finances, worried about money. Okay, 20, 25 years later, she's the one complaining about the lights now, fussing at me. When you come out of your office, please turn your light off, turn the computer off. You left that fan on. So, and that really, it was like a revelation. I realized that the problem, when we had problems, even with that little wasn't really a conflict, but just a difference of opinion, it wasn't about the lights. It wasn't about the lights. It was about, there's these words, I work in the mental health field, and I teach people a skill called, to alleviate the stress, called willingness over willfulness. And willingness is the desire to be effective, and willfulness deals with just wanting to be right. And I think we spent a lot of years during the bad times of our marriage just wanting to be right about everything, when it's easier to really put the marriage first and say, you know what, this is one battle that I'm not going to fight. So when I go in the room and she starts fussing about the light, I'll go in there and turn it off, and I'll make sure that I turn it off, and I'm just saying that I'm doing this for the marriage because it's easier to dig in and take a stand over very little minute things, little small things. But when you learn to give a little of yourself, that's being effective. How so? That's being effective in the marriage. Going back to what that man said, and I never forget this. It's not what you get out of the marriage; it's what you put into it. Sometimes I have to swallow my pride just for the sake of peace, and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
That's so good, y'all. He said he basically you had to die to yourself. In all honesty, that's what I heard, is that you had to die to yourself. And I'm in a coaching group, and we watched a video where the husband said that the man said, it's not fair being a husband. And I'm like, how so? But when he broke it down, it's like he said, when you both go to the altar, that's an altar of sacrifice. You both have to die there. But if you don't learn to die at the altar, things in your marriage die. So you learn to die to yourself while in your marriage. That's powerful. That is extremely powerful. Sisters, remember what I just said. When it's time for you to say I do, remember, when you at that altar, die. You got to die to yourself. That's what I heard from both of you. It's just like, it's not going to make any sense for me to argue about this or argue about that. Let's meet in the middle and make this marriage work. I think that's powerful. A lot of people don't have that mindset. And the most important thing is, you both said, seek ye first the kingdom of God. God has to be that part, the number one chord in your marriage. So thank y'all for sharing that. I want you all to unpack the concept of trust and boundaries in the context of a godly marriage. I'm going to repeat the question.
Well, you could talk more on trust. I'm gonna go to boundaries, because I think that's an issue, that I had, of not laying down boundaries when it comes to allowing others to influence me and my choices in my marriage. So when I first see boundaries, that's what I think of. Boundaries for others that I should have set, that I didn't set, and I had to learn to do that. As far as trust, I think I'm a naturally trusting person, so I'm just trusting, but I didn't have boundaries with some people outside of my marriage, and that became a detriment to my marriage, and so I had to learn to set those, and so I'll let him elaborate on his end.
Okay. I don't, in regards to trust, what really kind of comes to mind with me is knowing that she's got my back. She's always got my best interest at hand. I've known that since the beginning. Even when we were working together, before we got married, it's some things I heard her say, because some of the people who worked with us, because I was all about business, didn't like, the fact that, when I asked them to do something, they didn't want to do it. And, she kind of spoke up for me. She mentioned that she kind of spoke up for me in regards to, trying to get them to see things from my side. This is his job and everything. And just knowing that she's that type of person, that's always looking out for me, is good. And that's very important to me. I can count on her. I feel like I can always count on her. In regards to boundaries, I had to learn to respect certain boundaries in regards to her. This is my queen, and there were times in my emotions I didn't treat her as such, and I think the biggest thing I had to change is I had to let her know that what she thought and felt in this relationship mattered. Even if it's the smallest thing about purchasing something or doing something, as me and we have that chauvinistic way to where we feel like we don't have to consult with the wife, or we just do it. I know she trusts me and everything, to get it done. But just to let her know that, what you think, how you feel in this relationship, it's important to me, and I decide, that's something that I'm going to do every day. Your opinion matters. Everything about you matters, in this relationship. And that's something that I had to, another way I had to change my thinking in regards to our relationship.
That's powerful. Y'all gonna hear me say that a lot, because it's just like, it's so amazing when you tie everything together. Trust and boundaries, honestly, they work hand in hand. If I don't trust you, then you're not gonna have access to me. And if I do trust you, then guess what? I'll give you full and complete access. So I thank you so much for sharing that. And I love what you said, sis. I had to learn how to set boundaries with those that are outside of my marriage. I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't take into consideration. When you're married, best friends don't have a say in the union. Like, baby, this ain't your business. You got to stay out of it. So I'm grateful and thankful that you shared that, because I think that's something that we all, as women, especially those of us who desire marriage, have to remember. When you get married, you definitely cannot allow people to have a say in your marriage. Thank you for sharing that with us. The next question says, what role does God have within your marriage? And I think y'all kind of answered that, but.
Yeah, honestly, he didn't have that role at first, but and it makes a world of a difference when you do have a relationship. Your individual relationship with God is very important, and then we have a relationship together with God. Like our best conversations. I guess we're both Sunday school teachers, and our best conversation is about Bible. It does. I enjoy talking about the Bible and things of the spiritual aspect with him. That's like one of my favorite things to do. And you got to have God first. You got to, individually and together.
Well, God is important. God has helped me become a better husband. And I had to learn to, the Bible tells us to submit to each other, but I had to learn to really, really submit to him. When I talk about absolute surrender, and everything that I do. I had to learn to love her like Christ loved the church, and that's an unconditional love, because, and I think that's that love that we have grown to, is the fact that we are more patient with each other in regards to meeting each other where we are. And I think that's so important, and that's because of God, what we've been taught, what we've learned, and everything. It feels good to have somebody pray for you. I would text her, pray for me today. I pray for you every day. That's my response that I would get. Just to know that you have somebody, a godly woman who has a connection with God, to where she prays for you. That really makes me feel good for her relationship. I thank God for her relationship with him. Because it matters in this marriage. Days I can't pray for myself. Or I pray for myself, but I want somebody else to pray for me. She's already done it. She's already done it, and I thank God for that.
That's so powerful, y'all. He said the days he can't pray for himself, he already knows she done gone to the daddy and prayed for him. That is so beautiful to know that your spouse fights for you in prayer. Powerful, beautiful. Oh, y'all want to make me cry. You guys are an awesome couple, for real. I love to see marriage. That's something I think God has blessed me to look at marriage and see him. You guys are really allowing God to use you right now, because I feel his presence right now with you both. So I'm grateful and thankful that you're so transparent and vulnerable with us right now. Thank you. The next question is, looking back, how would your married self coach your single self desiring a godly marriage?
I would say two words: humility and submission. And I think those were things that I lacked as a young man, and just really telling myself, you've got to really humble yourself in every aspect of your life, your relationship with God, your relationship with your wife, and just submit. And I say that because, to me, submission is understanding that it's not all about you. And I think going into a marriage, that's what young men tend to think they're the king of the world, especially that world, their home and everything, and everybody else is just subject to them. But in that humility and submission, you understand that her role is just as important as yours, and you should respect that. And that's what I would tell myself.
I would ditto, and I would add patience, because with the submission and humility, it doesn't develop overnight, and you do have to be patient with yourself as well. And especially with your spouse, allow room for growth. And when I say growth, I mean for mistakes. And it's again, it's not overnight. And if you have that godly patience, you get to see, it's almost like a beautiful flower developing, and you can look back and you can see the growth. So I would say, seek God first, humble yourself, and be patient with one another.
All right, we're at our last question, and it says, what advice do you have for singles who desire a godly marriage?
Well, I think the key word is godly, and if again you're seek ye first, if you present yourself as such, I've learned that God will put people in your path that need to be in your path, and if you're already building that relationship with God, you got your vertical relationship going on, then He'll put people in your path, and you just have to. You're already be developed, and you're already be ready if you're seeking Him, and and you'll be found. A man that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. You'll allow yourself to be found um, as you're preparing.
And I would definitely say, yeah, put God first, and have that relationship with Him. That's so important. And that way you don't compromise, your principles, for someone else, that, and like I said, just communicating with Him, to me, and I, at this age, prayer is so important to me. Prayer is so important, and I think we missed the point that, this is our direct contact with God, but it goes back to that humility thing too, in regards to, so be careful what you pray for, because you could pray that God change this person, your spouse, and really, when you ask that, sometimes God don't work on them, God will work on you, and you take you through the change, and what you need to do, and what changing your adaptability to certain situations. So, not all that comes with the trials of relationship. Sometimes we'll ask for change, and it'll be God working on us to change us and everything. So I realized, that relationship is important, because God wants it to be like He wants it to be, and not like you want it to be. And that's why we have to get outside of ourselves, get out of our own ways, in regards to relationship. You want a relationship to grow. And sometimes you got to get out of your own way in order for that to happen.
Brother and Sister Edwards, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for Sister Edwards. I promise you were so funny. Really, truly quirky. Thank you so much, Brother Edwards. I couldn't tell you were an introvert. Couldn't tell at all. But I thank y'all. I want to thank you all so much for taking the time out and sharing your heart with us, sharing your marriage with us. I'm going to stop the recording because I know there are some questions that our sisters have for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.